you found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas. Thank you for joining us. It is football season. Does it feel like football season? Did you watch the game last night? How did that go for you? We want to know. We're going to talk all about last night with the Raiders. What did we see? What didn't we see? It is preseason, folks. Don't get your panties in a bunch if you didn't see what you wanted to. Don't get too excited about players who made one play, and don't get too concerned about players that made no plays. Of course, the starters were not in, but we want to thank you guys for joining us here on the Silver and Black Today. Just a reminder, you can catch us on the radio.com app. If you're not listening to the radio.com app on a regular basis, you're missing out. Not only do you miss out on the ability to take our show wherever you go, but you also are missing out on great content from all over the country, sports radio, music, and more, talk, you name it. So check out the radio.com app. Also, check out silverandblacktoday.com, our website. You can also stream this show live on YouTube, Periscope, via Twitter, and Facebook. Definitely go to YouTube, better spot there. Subscribe, hit notifications. All right. As usual, I can't do this alone. Although sometimes with these guys next to me, I feel alone. My co-hosts, starting with Mr. Kelly Kreiner. Kelly, how you doing this morning? Are you awake? I notice you have a new hat.
Yes, I'm barely awake, and I do have a new hat.
That's right.
That is true. Some of our great listeners from out in Pennsylvania area sent me a hat.
Well, that's the thing.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I was going to say, we have great listeners all over the country, and you're wearing one. What is the name of the town in Pennsylvania where he's from?
Ottsville?
Ottsville, yeah, Pennsylvania. Ottsville. Yeah. So, again, we have folks all over the country, all over the world who listen to the show, and Kelly benefits from that with a nice new hat. And then the man, the myth, well, no, you're not a myth. You're real. That's Mr.
Real.
Chaz Osborne. Chaz, how has your week been, man?
Legendary.
Legendary?
I don't know.
How so?
No, I had to go run down to San Diego. My mom actually out gardening. She fell and broke her arm. So I had to go down there.
She broke her arm?
Had to help her get back on her feet. No pun intended.
Well, yes, and stay off her arm, right? Because,
exactly.
Because she didn't break her feet, which is good. All right, so we are going to dive right in and talk Raider football. Of course, this past week, a big week in Raider Nation, especially here in Las Vegas. On Monday, myself and Chaz, we were out at the stadium site where they had the topping out.
Yep.
Most people call it a topping off, but I was told by Raider staff they're calling it topping out.
Nope.
And so we will make sure that we stay with topping out.
Topping off is what you do at the happy hour.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we were there, and we were fortunate enough to have a one-on-one interview. I won't mention the media member who also stood on the side and stole our one-on-one and posted video of it beforehand. Oh. Unbelievable. Do your own work. But anyway, we're going to jump in, and we're gonna play you. We had a one-on-one interview with owner Mark Davis, and we wanted to talk to him about the stadium, the naming rights, of course, Allegiant Stadium as it is now known, but also about the loss of his friend Cliff Branch. So here is our conversation with Raiders owner Mark Davis.
Here on the Silver and Black Today with Raiders owner Mark Davis. Mark, talk about this day to see your vision and the organization's vision start to really take shape and pass this milestone.
Well, again, it's a milestone, and as I've said before, that the least important thing in life is to score at halftime. We're excited today, but we still have a job to do to finish. And that's what I'm hoping that these guys understand, and I believe that the workers do. As long as they do it safely, efficiently, we're going to get it done in time. We'll be done in a little less than a year from now and be playing football here next year.
Now, Mark, every time I'm out here, it's remarkable the relationship and the bond you've developed with the men and women building this stadium. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, they mean so much to me. I call them the MVPs. They're actually doing the job. And it's just amazing to me how many pieces there are to this stadium. I mean, you see these big steel girders, but there's nuts and bolts that go in to make them stick together. And these guys, men and women, are doing it. And they do it in tough conditions at times.
Now, a little bit of mixed emotions. You lost your good friend Cliff Branch. Talk about what Cliff meant to you and to the Raider Nation all over.
Yeah, it's tough. And a new word I'm using is compartmentalize. Prior to Cliff, we lost seven people from the Raider Nation this year, Raider family. And we just had a reunion up in Napa, and we talked about that. And then to lose Cliff 2 nights ago, I'm still devastated. I'm still in shock. He was my best friend. He's still my best friend. I love him. There's nothing more I can say, but he's just one of the greatest people I've ever known in my life.
Mark, our condolences and thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, there you have it. Raiders owner Mark Davis. We're able to get him on the side for a few minutes at the stadium, topping out and naming announcement, which was interesting. It was a great event to go to. It was hot, and Chaz and I were out there. And Chaz, we had some indication going in, right, via folks that we talked to, but also when we rolled up.
Oh yeah,
when we rolled up to the stadium site that morning, Chaz, we noticed that the billboard outside the stadium, which has said, Raiders coming 2020 for a long time, was covered in a black tarp. Ooh, we think something might happen. Okay, so we figured that might happen, and sure enough, Chaz, we get out there, and Mark Bedane goes up, and this is what he said. Tony, we're going to play the other clip here. Here was the announcement on the stadium, and we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
We're also here to celebrate another exciting announcement. This city was built by pioneers and entrepreneurs and risk takers, people who weren't afraid to think a little differently, buck convention, and that's in the Raiders' DNA. So we can sympathize with that, and we identify with it. So when we were looking for a stadium naming partner, we were really excited that a locally based company that shares that part of their DNA, they're not afraid to think differently. They're not afraid to buck convention. They're not afraid to do things differently. Stepped up and decided that they wanted to partner with us, and they wanted to be a part of something really special here. So from this day forward, I'd like to announce that the stadium will now be known as Allegiant Stadium, and we're really excited that they're on board.
Most of all, I want to thank the guys back there with the hard hats. Those are the guys that work every day, every night, making this dream come true for all of us in the Raider Nation. As they know, we serve lunches quite a bit to them, but every time that we have lunch, I remind them that my philosophy is that the least important thing in life is the score at halftime. You got to finish the game, and we've got to finish this. Today is a magnificent milestone, putting up the last piece of steel, but we've got 1 year to finish it. Let's do it safely and get it done the Raider way. Thank you all.
All right, well, there you go. There was the announcements, and, of course, Mark Davis is on that halftime thing, right? But again, he thanked the workers at the stadium, and as you heard from the one-on-one interview we had with him, there really is that special relationship, and you sense it, Chaz, walking around talking to the men and women who are building the stadium. They love him, and he's there all the time having lunch with them, feeding them, and kind of cheering them on.
It felt like a lot of them were Raider fans, too, because while it was all going on, a lot of them had their cameras out, and they were filming, and they were cheering louder than the Allegiant people and all, the other dignitaries that were there. And, it's great to have everybody on the same page and when you're doing a big job like that.
Are you saying that the folks from Allegiant were not cheering enough?
No, I'm just saying these workers were cheering more. They were great. They were into it.
Kelly, what do you think? You always have an opinion on everything. So what about, look, it's a good deal for the Raiders, but Allegiant, we had heard rumors about it back from Mick Akers in May.
I was going to say,
are you surprised at all?
No, because it was kind of the worst kept secret because there had been so much smoke. There had to be some fire at some point. If you would have said at the beginning of this for me to pick 2 or 3 places that would have it, Allegiant would not have been one of them. But when it started leaking out and you started thinking about it, it kind of makes sense. Yep. I don't think we've heard the official actual price yet, but the numbers are getting thrown around. It's a big number, but The difference between getting the stadium here and other places is you're buying Las Vegas as much as you are the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Anytime there's an event at T-Mobile, at MGM, and they do the flyover and everything, you're going to see the Raiders Stadium, Allegiant Field.
Yeah.
So you're getting so much more exposure than you are for 10 football games and 4 events in, say, San Francisco or somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess, you can justify the price.
Well, you could justify the price, and I think the one thing that Mark Bedane said, and it was surprising to me because outside of gaming companies, it was going to be tough, I thought, to get a quote-unquote local company to be a sponsor because we just don't have massive corporations here unless it's mining or gaming, okay? And the fact that Allegiant is based here, I think, is very cool. I mean, it's a local company. Mm-hmm. You could drive out to their headquarters in Summerlin. You can talk to people around town. A lot of people work at Allegiant, and not just at the airport. I'm talking about the corporate office and talking to their PR staff, Hillary Gray, who runs their PR staff there. It really is a company involved in the local community. So to have them on board, and like you said, we are a tourist destination. We are a service industry town that is dependent on visitors. So the airline makes sense. Of course, there were the wisecracks from people saying, well, if their flights aren't late, it's like, okay, whatever. You can say that about every airline. And Allegiant is a low-cost airline. You have to pay to bring luggage on and certain all stuff. But that's how they keep their prices low. It's a different model, and it's worked for them, and they grow. Yep. So very exciting for the Raiders this week. And for now, we can call it Allegiant Stadium. We don't have to call it the generic blue stripe
mystery
Las Vegas Stadium, right?
Death
Which is
Star.
nice. So, yeah, the Death Star is the nickname, which we like. And you can also buy a T-shirt on our website.
Hey.
All right. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to be all about Raiders versus Rams. Did you watch the game last night? I'm assuming you did. We will talk about that and what we saw in our observations here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Meet the
Hey, this is Rodney Hudson. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
Oh, how apropos we come back into Rodney Hudson, offensive line. Oy vey. Oh, man, we're going to talk about that actually later in the show. We're going to do an entire 10 minutes on the concerns with the Raiders' offensive line in the hour number 2, so make sure you stick around that. Also, I forgot to tell you who's on the show today. After the next break, we're going to talk with Jesse Reed from Sportsnaut. He is our Hard Knocks guy. We're going to talk about the first episode. Yes, it was Tuesday. Yes, a lot of people talked about it, but we have not heard Kelly talk about it.
It's true.
So we need the realism of a Mr. Kelly Kreiner to talk about it.
You know I hate reality TV, so I'm sure everybody can't wait to hear what I think of reality TV.
Right, exactly. That's because that's why everybody calls you Mr. Sunshine. So we're going to talk about that. Also, at the quarter hour, or I should say, at 45 after the hour, Doel Cortez. We're gonna have a complete discussion on cryotherapy, Antonio Brown's nasty feet.
Oh.
His burns. So we figured, Chaz said, I'm going to go get a cryotherapy expert. So we did. We're going to bring that to you. Also, top of next hour, Mr. Ken Evans from the Las Vegas Stadium Authority Board will be here as well. We'll pepper him with some questions on the stadium project. So make sure you don't go anywhere. All right, Raiders versus Rams, guys. Last night, the preseason gets off. Everybody's excited because, hell, it's football, right? So we get some football on the television. It's real football, not practice. Well, I say real football in quotes, as no Raiders starters for the most part, especially on offense, actually played. But I want to run through. Let's talk a little bit about who caught our eye. Okay, some guys that I thought did well, because if you're watching the preseason and you're a Raiders fan, don't pay attention to the score. Don't pay attention to the entire team and the units and all that stuff. You need to watch individual players. Mm-hmm. You need to watch one-on-one matchups, what's going on. And here's a couple guys I want to talk first about, I thought, that I watched and ISO'd, to use a term on, Mr. Film Guy Kelly over there, that I really thought did well, at least for one game. Starting with rookie cornerback Trayvon Mullen. I thought Mullen really showed promise and covered, again, the Rams weren't starting guys either.
The Rams started nobody.
Right, they started nobody, you're right. But from a technical standpoint, watching him, I thought he was doing all the right things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, he didn't go up against a quarterback who's ever going to throw a pass, or a wide receiver who may not run a route. But that's the thing. You can only go up against the people on the field, and his job is to shut those people down. And yeah, he did look good at times. And that's kind of the thing with him, because he rarely got tested in college, so nobody really knows how good he is. So, in the next couple weeks, you start seeing starters play a little more often, him getting more reps. We'll find out exactly what he is. But yeah, he did look pretty good.
Yep.
That's from Kelly. That is high praise to say that he looked pretty good. Yeah. So we'll I'm sure Trayvon Martin, once he gets word that was your comment, I'm sure he'll be very happy. Chaz, what'd you think of Mullen?
He was great. I feel like the defense got the win in the game. Like you said, the Rams really didn't start anybody, so there wasn't much to go. But, holding them under 200 total net yards, and I think they held them down to 10 first downs. They were 3 for 14 on third down conversion. So it was nice to see the defense stepping it up.
It was. Now, I thought overall that's one of the notes that I had, because I actually have notes. Some folks on radio in Las Vegas don't prepare notes, but I do. Doesn't make me any good, but at least I prepare notes. Mostly, again, defense, mostly backups. There were some of the rookies who were in there. I thought overall they did well. Cleveland Furl, by the way. He wants Furl.
It's Furl now?
I've always called him Feral, like a feral cat, but it's like Furl.
Ice cream?
I heard, yes, the broadcast team last night was specific about that. That's what he wants. Furl. So we will do that. But the defense looked good. I think the Raiders, and do you guys agree? I mean, watch, again, one sample size, very small against a lot of backups and worse. But I thought the Raiders I think the Raiders have, and we'll get to Antonio Brown later, I think the Raiders have a lot of tough decisions to make at wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree.
You look at last night, Ryan Grant, J.J. Nelson, of course, the Alameda native Keelan Doss, and Keon Hatcher. They all look good, guys. I mean, we'll see how it plays out over the next few weeks. But, Kelly, I mean, it's not a terrible problem to have.
It's not, and I don't think it's going to be that tough a decision, really. I don't see any way that Hatcher or Grant make the team. Keelan Doss, to me, is the one, because I don't think you can stash him on a practice squad because somebody will grab him, so he's going to have to make the 53 if you want to keep him. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be the tough decision. We know what Ryan Grant is. He's just not a very good football player.
Gruden loves him.
Yeah,
he talked about him in his press conference and about how his brother had him and he saw him at practice one day.
And his brother let him go.
Right. Yeah, his brother did let him go.
And Gruden does love everybody. Doesn't he?
That's my whole thing. They let him walk. Mm-hmm. He got the contract to Baltimore. Baltimore canceled the contract because they got Crabtree instead. Mm-hmm. The Redskins had another chance to get him back and didn't take him. They didn't love him too much.
Yep. Yeah. The Keelan Doss, that was probably one of my favorite plays of the game, too, getting that touchdown in front of his family, his hometown team and everything. He, like you said, he should make the team just because of his backstory. And it's just one of those.
No, he shouldn't. I don't care about your backstory. If you're not good, you shouldn't.
Obviously, his play on the field is good enough to get him there. But if you're weighing it and there's two guys that are the same, I would go with Doss just because of that extra.
And I still like, and I liked him last year, I like Keon Hatcher. Keon Hatcher made the team last year because of the final preseason game. I mean, he had such a big game, and it was kind of like, hey, he solidified his spot. But it's interesting. I think that we'll see on Ryan Grant. But yes, Keelan Doss to me is the guy who really stuck out and was the one that I think is going to force their hand into making sure he's on the team. Now, a lot of the folks on Facebook are active because you know what, the most popular thing to talk about at any time is always the backup quarterback.
Oh, I thought we were going to the punter competition.
Well, we're going to get to that before we get out of this portion of the show. But I will tell you that last night Nathan Peterman looked much better than Glennon. There's no question. But remember, folks, before you start going out, because I see a lot of Raider fans do this, and I'm trying to save you money and embarrassment. Don't go buy a Nathan Peterman jersey just yet.
I don't think you can. I don't even think that's an option.
Yes, NFL.com now. You can order anything you want. I can get one that says Kelly's Corner with a K. I can do all kinds of things. So anyway, Nathan Peterman had the 50-yard run. Okay, great. There could be,
It was awesome.
It was fine. It was fine. But if you look at the history of Nathan Peterman, and I'm not bagging on him, because I think Kelly said it in our pre-show conversation that he more than anybody gets battered because of two performances in 2 games. That's where he's gotten his negative reputation. And is that fair? Probably not. But he has the biggest drop off of anybody when it comes to preseason versus regular season games. Okay, just performance wise, and it is a difference. So before you get all excited, because all these folks are talking about Nathan Peterman, I got Michael Guerrero here, MVP of the preseason. Book it. Yeah. Who cares? It's the preseason.
Yep.
That's like saying, well, I was the MVP of warm-ups in the NBA. I was shooting threes, and then I scored no points in the game. Guys, I'm not saying don't like Nathan Peterman. I'm just saying temper your excitement. Football's back. I know you're excited, but whoa, Nelly.
Whoa.
Yeah, the Browns and the Lions went 0-16 a few years ago. They were both 4-0 in the preseason.
That's right. No, it doesn't really matter. But what did you see? Chaz, when you were up at camp, you said Glennon looked like terrible. Did you see the same things you saw from him at camp that you saw last night?
No, he looked a lot better last night. He did make a few throws. I felt like all of his throws were a little underthrown. And he had a couple that he threw in the dirt because the play was broken down, and a couple that he threw out of bounds, which is smart. If there's nothing happening, just get rid of it. So he looked a little bit better to me, but I still, either one of them, they don't have enough to push Carr for the starting spot. That's for sure.
Well, of course not. I mean,
that's not close. So I would back off the Peterman MVP chance for now.
Yeah, and if anybody's talking about him even coming close to being a starter, then they got to stop eating mushrooms.
Oh.
I mean, because anyway, but I thought that. But let's get to what Kelly talked about, because we only got a minute and a half left here or so, and that was the punting. A.J. Cole. A.J. Cole's got the job, Kelly. There's no question to me.
Yep.
Oh, you're asking?
This is the last time we're going to talk about punters.
I'm
the whole
not following
season.
a punter competition in preseason.
Sure you are.
No, I don't care.
Yes, you do.
Not at all.
You do. I know.
He does.
Ray Guy's your favorite player of all time.
He was my favorite player.
You're a punter. You're a punting aficionado.
Yeah, don't care. Just tell me who the punter's going to be.
And don't shank the ball.
Even
if they do, they don't care. You don't care.
Yeah, it's like they were giving me crap because I was watching one game on my phone and one on the TV yesterday at the Cigar Lounge.
What's wrong with that?
Well, exactly. It's like I've got action on both of these. It's like,
That's
yeah,
football.
I will bet preseason football.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I have to care about a punter competition.
Well, anyway, A.J. Cole's going to win that one. I think the other player that really looked poor, and we'll talk some more about this when we talk about the offensive line, but Brandon Parker is not helping himself. I like the kid a lot, but he's in big trouble. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Jesse Reed from Sports Knot on Hard Knocks. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Now, we are going to talk about something we've been talking about, I think, at least in social media and all over the place. There's been stories about it and whatnot. And that, of course, is Hard Knocks. The Raiders making their first appearance on the show as it launched this past Tuesday. It'll be at Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. If you have HBO, it's 10 p.m. Eastern time. And we now bring in the guy we're going to talk to all season about Hard Knocks. And that is our good friend Jesse Reed from sportsknot.com. You can follow him at Jesse, Jesse, Reed, Reed 78 on Twitter. So make sure you do that. Jesse, welcome back to Silver and Black today. How you doing this morning?
Fantastic, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right, let's jump in. Hard Knocks Episode 1. What were your general overview thoughts about the Raiders' debut on this show?
A little bit muted, to be perfectly honest. I felt like HBO dropped the ball a bit. I think a lot of people have said this, but right off the bat, there's the big Antonio Brown issue that they very much danced around. I noticed they didn't even show his feet. Like he was sitting on the ground at one point, and his shoes were off, and his feet were exposed, and all they showed was a sliver of his top big toe, and they wouldn't show that. They wouldn't go into it. And then, of course, it wasn't long after that Antonio Brown himself went on social media and posted those nasty pictures. So everybody got to see. And it's just kind of funny, you'd think that a show that prides itself on bringing fans right into the inside of what goes on would have worked hard to bring all this to light. And it seems like instead, HBO, perhaps at the urging of the NFL, has really taken a softened stance on really reporting on what's going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, it is a definite balance, and you have to wonder where they're going to go with it. And of course, the first thing that I watched, and yes, I mean, it was the biggest story, and they have up until Saturday. The director of Hard Knocks was on our sister show, Saturday Sports Beat with Tony Cardasco on Saturday mornings last week, and he said they have until like late Saturday to sort of make any changes to the show. Which is why they had a tribute to Cliff Branch, who passed away last Saturday as well. So that makes sense. But I agree with you. The Brown thing was underplayed, and you got to think that that's because the Raider organization wants it that way, and I get that. But the star for me, and I think everybody agreed on this, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it as well, is Jonathan Abrams. So yeah. Jonathan Abrams, to me, personality, swagger, and really had that kind of Raiders mentality that I think outsiders and insiders alike, Raider Nation, look at guy who's hitting guys in his shirt and his shorts and helmet. He had that aggressiveness. And then Jesse, he had that conversation with John Gruden, which was really interesting because you could tell Gruden was not exactly happy with what was going on, but Abrams was pushing him.
It was awesome. I mean, how awesome was that? He went toe-to-toe with one of the toughest coaches around, staring him right in the eye. You can't cut me.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, the guy has a set on him, and I got to think that's going to be really good for the Raiders. I mean, coming out of college, he was a really good player anyways. I was really high on him. A lot of people were really high on him. And then just to see the personality, the alpha, I'm the top dog kind of mentality, the Raiders desperately needed that. And I think he brings a whole another level of vitality and leadership. I think he's going to be almost an instant leader. I think, guys, you saw with on the horseback trip with Cleveland Farrell, he was definitely the guy, leading that whole deal. And I think that players will probably gravitate around him very early in his career. He is just a really magnetic person that I think is going to inject some serious life into the whole team. I loved it. That was definitely the highlight.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Jesse, it's Kelly here. You mentioned they kind of danced around the Antonio Brown thing.
No pun intended.
But the one thing that gets me is they're already setting up for this to be a bad move by the Raiders because within the first 3 minutes they talk about he's already breaking down, and they use that quote. And this isn't him breaking down. This was an accident. If Derek Carr would have cut his hand and couldn't throw a football, would they be saying he's breaking down?
No.
Because it's the same situation.
Yeah, it is the same situation. However, I would like to perhaps posit that they also had an inkling about the helmet situation. And I'm wondering if the breakdown may not be mainly a physical thing, but his connection to the team already seems to be breaking down. When I watched him in particular, Antonio Brown seemed obviously a little disconnected, and he also seemed like he wasn't 100% all the way in. He seemed like he was a little bit, honestly, insecure. When he was talking with guys, he wasn't really fully in, it seemed. It's just, that was my perspective. And I'm not an insider, and I don't have inside information on that, but it seemed like he wasn't as in as all the other guys were. And I think that HBO probably wants to stretch out any drama that they can, obviously, in saying that he might be breaking down. It could be physical, but obviously the guy's the hardest worker, around, and if his body's okay, he's going to be fine. I don't think that his feet have anything to do with his body breaking down physically, as you said. But I do think that there was obviously a disconnect almost right off the bat as soon as he got there. That helmet situation is very strange, and supposedly threatening to retire, which I think is BS. Yeah. But there's just this really big. His whole thing is hanging over the team like you would not believe.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I think a little bit. If I can be self-critical of those in the media too. I think some of the reporting and some of the issues that are being bantered about are actually the wrong issues. I think you've touched on some of the other ones, which is watching the footage and feeling like he's not comfortable. And I think that's the bigger concern. The bigger concern is not so much the helmet; they'll work that out. It's not even the feet that'll heal up. It's more about that chemistry, which is why Gruden wants him there. Not necessarily because he's going to play a lot of snaps in a preseason game or even on the field, but just that he's there because the stigma coming in with Antonio Brown is around the persona, the personality. And so to me, that is one of the keys there. So I think as people look at it, you can't dismiss it and saying, oh, it's going to be fine. And you can't say it's the worst thing ever, because I've seen other people say that the Raiders are already regretting it. I don't think that's true. I think the truth, as usual, Jesse, is somewhere in the middle.
Definitely. And to your point, in the first team meeting, it struck me that he was in the back standing away. He had a couple of guys standing with him. I don't know if they were teammates or if they were part of his personal entourage, but he was already, from the very beginning, kind of set apart.
Yeah.
In that very first team meeting. And that just struck me as well. It seems like he has no reason to be insecure or uncomfortable. He's one of the best players to come into the league in many, many years. But he seems like he's having a hard time getting integrated with the Raiders.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, too, the other thing is you don't have, and I want to sort of finish up with you a little bit about Derek Carr, because I still am amazed, and I'll get accused, as I often do from folks in Raider Nation, of being a Carr apologist or whatever you want to call it. But I like the guy. I defend the guy a lot. But Derek Carr is one of the most likable people that you can find, I think, in the NFL. But then some people dislike him because of it. I see it in Raider Nation, Jesse. I mean, you report on the entire league, so you're not just focused on the Raiders. But I don't understand. I get the performance on the field. People want to see a certain something out of him. I get that. There's different types of leaders, and I think Derek Carr is a different type of leader. I grew up, my favorite baseball player of all time was Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn led by playing on the field. He led by example. He was not a guy who was going to rah-rah, get in your face and yell. And so I look at Derek Carr as being that same way. Whether or not John Gruden long-term wants that, we'll have to see. But what is it about Derek Carr that polarizes people?
I think it's because, let's just say a lot of people seem to really gravitate toward the Baker Mayfield model. Very, very alpha. I'm, out in front. I'm talking. Everybody's listening to me. And as you said, Derek Carr is very much the opposite of that. He's, and I think it's a great thing. He's a staunch Christian guy. He's a family man. He is more interested in just doing the work. And I think a lot of people think he's a little too goody two-shoes. I'm not one of those people, but I think that, Raider Nation, there's that stigma that you got to be really tough. You got to be kind of a little nasty. And Derek Carr is not that. He's not any of those things. He's a tough guy, for sure, but he's not out there putting forth that persona. And I think that Raiders fans have a hard time embracing that. He's not Ken Stabler,
He's not cavorting in the middle of the night with ladies all over the place on pool tables and whatnot. But Jesse Reed from sportsnot.com at Jesse Reed 78. Jesse, we're going to have you on next week. We'll talk about next week's episode. We appreciate you joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, fellas, and you have a great weekend.
All right, you too, buddy. All right, Jesse Reed on Hard Knocks. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. We're going to step aside and pay some bills when we come back. Doel Cortez from Ageless Cryotherapy. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown's feet. Yes, we're talking about men's feet on this show. Go figure. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio. We are glad you're with us. Looks like we're having a little bit of an issue with our stream on video to only YouTube. I don't know what the deal is, but we will fix it for you. In the meantime, we were just talking to Jesse Reed from sportsnot.com about the Hard Knocks episode, the first one, of course, because that's what Raider Nation is talking about this week. I enjoyed it. I thought that the point about Derek Carr was key, and I still just don't understand why people dislike Derek Carr. I mean, you can't make people be what you want them to be versus what they are, and look at their strengths versus their weaknesses. We all have them. But we'll save that for another time. But I do want to talk about Jonathan Abrams because we all have some strong opinion. Oh, wait.
Well, I was
Kelly, something to say about Carr.
You like I said, you mentioned Carr. It's like, people don't like him because he's boring. You know, you mentioned the Baker Mayfield thing. Everybody wants that great, exciting quarterback. Yeah. But the Mannings have 4 Super Bowls. Tom Brady has, 6 Super Bowls? 7? I lost count because I blacked out and gave up on that last decade of football. And Russell Wilson's got a Super The exciting guy isn't winning you Super Bowls. It's the boring guy that are bringing in rings.
And the thing with the Raiders, they want a quarterback, an old school Raider quarterback that's got swagger. And, here's kind of a Bible thumper, Derek Carr, good citizen. And, we want somebody that's a little more on.
So let me get this straight. Good man, married, has kids, good citizen, faithful. Terrible.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
I don't get that.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's no fun.
I mean, I like guys with edge, too. I get it. You need, whenever you create a team, I don't care if it's in business, if it's in your family, if it's on a team, a sports team, you need people from, it's. I know this word sometimes gets overused, but it's diversity. You want people with different personalities, different talents, different backgrounds, because that's like, for me, and we don't talk politics on the show, but when I talk about politics with friends, I like people from all different views. I don't like to surround myself with people who just agree with everything that I think, at least in my head at that time.
Right.
I like to hear from different people, different backgrounds, because if somebody walked a different path than I did, they're gonna be able to enrich my life, and I'm going to learn from them. And so why some Raiders fans particularly have it out for Derek Carr so bad, I get the on-the-field stuff. You can argue some of that. You can say, hey, look, he needs to do this, this, and this. I got no problem with that. But when you make it personal, I'm tired of seeing him with his kids. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of deadbeat fathers. Those are the people you should be complaining about, not the guy who's actually doing the job he should do. But anyway, Jonathan Abrams. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Jonathan Abrams. I love this kid. We were talking with Tony Farina, our engineer, his last show before he goes back to the University of Missouri to go back to college. We're all teary-eyed. Not really. Just kidding. We love him. But Jonathan Abrams, I loved his interactions. I love what he brings. Some people are annoyed by it. Kelly, tell me why you're annoyed by Jonathan Abrams.
It was just his personality just kind of, to me, came off kind of grating because it's like that might be his regular personality, but it's coming off like he's really playing this up for the cameras, But and like I said, he might not be. Like the horseback riding thing with him and Furl, I thought that was kind of funny, Okay, whatever, it's just kind of guys hanging out. But like when he keeps talking about Carr's money at the dinner and just on the practice field, and that's the biggest thing. It's like I've known friends that played professional sports and everything and got hurt in practice because somebody hit in a non-contact drill or something like that.
Yeah, that's
so when you see him doing that and stuff on the field, it's like, that's the stuff you can. And he's just, I just want to do it. No, do your job and know what you're supposed to be doing. That's half the part of being a professional.
I'm not sure if he was, trying to play it for the cameras as much as maybe that's just him trying to, interact with everybody and kind of fit in and everybody's getting to know everybody. I thought he stole the show, too. He was great in the beginning when he brought the $500 worth of snacks, and he's making a joke about it. And his interaction with Gruden, that was probably one of the highlights of the show. But the salmon thing, no big deal. I thought it was funny them riding the horses. I enjoyed the on the field portion, the football action. That's why we're watching it. And the interaction with the coaches and the player, the players interacting with each other, the coaches talking about things with each other, and then the coaches talking with the players. That's the stuff I really want to see. I don't need to see him riding on horseback. I don't need to see him out to lunch.
No,
but I understand that because, you got to show their character. No. The reason I gravitated to the Raiders was because of characters like Ken Stabler and John Matuzak back in the day. So we do need to profile their characters.
But because you heard those stories, not because you saw them. That's the thing with those guys. That myth was built up because that story was told and told and told,
right.
Not because there's cameras following these guys around and this stuff's actually happening.
It's a lot different, yeah.
So the other thing is, I don't care about, I just want to watch them play football.
Exactly.
I don't care about practice.
Right.
I don't even care about practice. I don't even care about any of that other stuff.
I like watching.
It's I don't care what actors do when they're not filming. I don't care what movies start. I don't care about it. I just want to see the finished product. That's all I'm interested in.
Right. But Kelly, that's fine. I mean, again, choice, right? We all get choice. We live in a free country where we get to choose what we want to see and watch and all that kind of stuff.
But I don't have a choice. You told me I had to watch this.
Well, that's true. That's very true. You had homework. But I will tell you this. Most people, I use my wife as an example. She watches some television, and I think to myself, how can you watch this? Mm-hmm. House Hunters International. Okay, I like real estate. I like investment. I like property. I get that. I can't understand that, it's the same story over and over again with people. Well, they have a limited budget, $1.5 million. I'm like, what?
I'm a dog walker, and my wife is an at-home yoga instructor.
Yes.
Our budget is $6.7 million.
Right. And so, but to me, again, Jonathan Abram, yes, I get the point about the Derek Carr joke. And Derek Carr didn't seem too amused by it, so I think he was playing to the camera a little bit. But he was also trying to bond with his teammates. And I think that as a young, confident guy, you're going to push the limits until somebody tells you, okay, you pushed it too far. I think Gruden did that with the on-the-field stuff. So I wouldn't anticipate seeing it again. If we start to see it over and over again, then there's a problem.
But you're going to see it over and over again because he did it in college, too. They had to stop the spring game because he killed a kid in a non-contact, a light contact drill, took his head off. The coach pulls him to the side, makes an example of it, and stopped the spring game because of what he did. And he's continuing to do it.
But that does not fit in with my narrative, so stop. No, I'm just kidding. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, very special guest in the studio today, Ken Evans from the Las Vegas Stadium Advisory Board. He'll be with us to talk about the stadium and other things. He is a Raiders fan as well, so we'll talk a little bit of football with him as well. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Don't go anywhere.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Hope you're having a great weekend. Of course, the Raiders beat the Rams 14-3 yesterday. And some breaking news, unfortunately, out of the world of the NFL. Steelers wide receiver coach Darryl Drake has died at the age of 62. Don't have any details on that. But as much as Raider fans don't like the Steelers, life is bigger than football. And so we send our best out to Steelers fans and, of course, Coach Drake's family and friends. Darryl Drake dies at the age of 62. Okay, we are now going to shift gears and talk about the stadium. That's right. Now we can call it Allegiant Stadium. We got the name on Monday, which is a big deal. And while we were out there, we got to spend some time with someone we've gotten to know and respect. And he joins us now, and that is Ken Evans. Ken is on the Stadium Advisory Board, is also the chairperson of the Community Benefits Plan. We had Peter Guzman on a couple weeks ago. Ken, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here, one, as a member of the Stadium Authority Board, as well as the chair for the Community Benefits Plan Oversight Committee. But I'll also say I'm a Raiders fan since the 70s.
Yes, so it's not only are you doing all that work to make sure the stadium project stays on time, on budget for the taxpayer money, but also you can't wait for the Raiders to get. I mean, tell me about that. I mean, you grew up in Los Angeles, you come to Las Vegas, and now the Raiders are coming here. I mean, could you have drafted in your wildest imagination a more perfect scenario for someone like you being a Raiders fan?
Would have never imagined it. For me personally, about 30 years ago, I came to Las Vegas, active military, active Air Force, eventually went on to retire. But at that time, Vegas was a lot smaller. Glad to have seen the growth. So now, about 30 years later, to see a NFL team coming here, much less my favorite team, man, it's an exciting time.
Well, and it is. And Ken, I mean, the stadium project continues to hum along. It was a big milestone on Monday. As I mentioned, you were there. A lot of the board members were there. Dignitaries, our elected officials, of course, the team officials, and folks from Allegiant Airlines. But let's back up a little bit and talk about that event and the fact that the naming rights, as you guys drafted all of the plans and have overseen the construction and the development of this project, the naming rights was a big one because that is revenue that comes
Absolutely.
in. Talk a little bit about that and what it means overall for the project now to have that done so early.
It's a great thing. It lends some financial, even more financial stability to the project. One of the things that we talked about during our July 18th meeting is the fact that the seat licenses have more than performed based on the original projections. And again, what that does is when you have that kind of revenue early, it just, again, lends even more stability to the project, as well as in the case of the seat licenses, with the additional revenue, we're already talking about doing some additional things to provide a first-class, world-class experience for our fans.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and it is such great news. And the revenue with, there was a lot of discussion, especially those who were opposed to the project to begin with, which, hey, it's within their rights. And I think some people had logical arguments for why they were opposed to it. At the end of the day, though, when you look at what this project has done, not only for paying for itself, but also what it means to the larger community, Ken, because you also head up the Urban Chamber of Commerce, this is really important for business. I think people,
absolutely,
they think of football games, they think of attendance, they think of the Raiders making money, of course, and that's what they want to do. But when it comes to small, medium-sized businesses and people around the stadium project, talk about the impact that's had so far.
It's a huge impact. From an economic development standpoint, you have obviously the direct construction efforts, whether it's employment, whether it's procurement for small businesses, or the Raiders, true to their form, they've already started some of the community engagement, which means supporting local nonprofits, contributing to charitable causes. The bottom line is there's a direct economic development impact, but in addition to that, there's an intangible benefit as well because there are small businesses that service some of the larger businesses. They will benefit too. One of the things about the Community Benefits Plan is the idea behind it was to make sure that there would be diversity and inclusion in 3 stages: the pre-development, the actual construction, and then the ongoing operations, and then make sure that those 3 phases cover 3 areas as well. Again, employment, procurement, and community engagement. And I have to say, so far, we're not only meeting, but we're exceeding in terms of meeting the mark in those areas.
Are you surprised by that? I mean, you had that mark, and so if you hit the number, great, right? Because that's the number you set. But because you've surpassed it, and the Raiders have surpassed it, is that at all surprising to you, or did you have a sense of that early on?
No, we had a sense of it early on, and one thing I want to give the Raiders credit for is they have a culture of diversity and inclusion. There's a local media magazine called The Urban Voice, publisher Joseph Abraham. In there, Shondell Newsom, who's the chair for our Urban Chamber board, he pointed out in an article that if you look at the Raiders as an organization, they traditionally have been about diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
Whether it was bringing Art Shell on board, not only as a player, but eventually as a head coach, whether it was bringing Tom Flores on board as a first Hispanic coach. The bottom line is the Raiders are about diversity and inclusion, and that's at the employment level, the small business or procurement level, as well as community engagement. So it's really not a surprise.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal, and as we've watched it, and like I said, I had your fellow committee member Peter Guzman on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about that too, on how the entire community is being involved. And Ken, the thing is, once that stadium is done next July 31st, and it opens so the Raiders can get in their play as well as UNLV. It's not going to stop there, correct?
It sure isn't. And in fact, I can tell you that way back when I attended the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee meetings when they were first talking about the concept of providing a stadium not only, again, for the Raiders but for UNLV, one of the points was made is the fact that, especially since this is Las Vegas, we try to bring 45 million plus tourists and visitors to this region, so we need to make sure we have a stadium that can also accommodate not only football games, but 40 to 45 special events throughout the course of the year. Yeah. So once again, the stadium has a 30-year life. The Raiders have given us a 30-year commitment, but part of that commitment is making sure that the stadium is there for more than just football.
That's right. So many different events that the stadium can host, everything from major political conventions. You're talking about Democrat, Republican,
correct,
national conventions and whatnot. There's so many things that we can do with a facility of that size. Now, Ken, as the project moves forward through these milestones, we know from a construction standpoint, the raising of the roof is going to be one of the most difficult things they're going to have to do. So we'll see how
significant.
Yeah, it's very big.
And I'll just throw out there, I really appreciate it. I got a tour a couple of months ago from Don Webb. I'm actually a civil engineer from the Air Force Academy, so I also have a bit of a technical background, and I appreciate the complexity of what we're getting ready to do with that roof system. And let me tell you, that is going to be a big deal.
That is a big deal, and I know that they've done it in Europe, not on the same scale, right. So it's not been done in the United States, but it looks like we got the folks over there to get it done.
Absolutely.
When you look at the project and its timeline as you continue to go on, what other concerns do you have? The hotel tax, people I think are hypersensitive that they watch it. They don't understand the waterfall fund and how that protects the taxpayer per se. But is there anything else on the horizon that you guys look at as a body and think to yourselves, okay, this is something we really need to watch? Not a problem, but just something that you're keeping a closer eye on.
I'll just, I don't want to try to speak for all my colleagues, correct, but from my standpoint, what I'm paying attention to, again, as someone that worked with Jeremy Arguello, props to him and his team, to develop the community benefits plan, it's just a matter of watching and making sure that we build on the success that we've had during construction. AEG Facilities was announced, and you could tell from their initial orientation that they are already committed to the community benefits plan and not only meeting but exceeding the targets. We're still waiting to get an announcement about the master concessionaire, and I'm sure that they will make an effort to not only meet but exceed things as well. So I would just say, in response to your question, just a matter of continuing to build on the success that we've already had in terms of participation at the employment level, the procurement level, and the community engagement level.
Well, and as we get close to the end of this interview, and thank you again for coming in, and you are also a veteran, as you mentioned, Lieutenant Colonel, retired.
Yeah, retired Lieutenant Colonel, commanded civil engineering units in both Iraq and Afghanistan, 2008, 2010, respectively.
Well, and again, thank you for your service. Amazing. And that is, I know, too, as part of the community benefits plan, having the opportunity for veteran-owned businesses, yes, to be involved as well. And that's close to your heart, so I'm sure you're watching that closely.
Absolutely. And what I would say is I would encourage all businesses out there, especially small businesses, whether you be minority-owned, veteran-owned, or women-owned, go to the Stadium Authority website, lvstadiumauthority.com, go to the vendor tab and complete that online vendor interest form, because we want as many businesses, to get the opportunity to compete, and then obviously in keeping with the Raiders organization and respect for diversity and inclusion, we want to produce actual results. So glad to have been able to be on the show this morning, Scott. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, no, I appreciate you coming in, Ken, and it won't be the last time. We'll have you in again, and we'll see you out at the meetings. On the community, the last thing I want to ask you about, on the community benefits plan, there were a lot of folks upset about it at the beginning. And with now what has transpired, and clearly not only the board but the Raiders, Stadco, and everybody has made good on those promises.
Yes.
I've always said that if you try to please everybody, you'll please nobody. But have you seen a lot of those folks who were initially very skeptical or against the project? Have you seen them come around a little bit?
I've seen a few come around. I think what we have to do is just continue to, you make a good point. You're not going to please everyone. But if we can make sure that we have a significant amount of success stories, some of which we hope would be some of the individuals that had concerns from the start, I think that will go a long way towards building the community spirit and support around the stadium.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. And Ken Evans, Stadium Advisory Board, and also the chair of the Community Benefits Plan, thank you very much for coming in, and we'll get you back in real soon. Maybe next time we'll bring you in and just talk about Raiders, how the season's going.
Hey, that'll work for me, especially if Carr's leading the way to another possible Super Bowl run.
Yeah. All right.
And stay healthy this time.
That's right. All right. Ken Evans from the Las Vegas Stadium Advisory Board has been our guest. We appreciate it coming in. We're going to step aside. When we come back, the show rolls on. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Cliff Branch, formerly of the Oakland Raiders, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowl, and you listen to the Silver and Black Show.
All right, Cliff Branch brings us in, the late Cliff Branch. That hurts every time I hear it. And it's but we want to thank Ken Evans for coming in and talking about the stadium, the advisory board, and everything that's going on there. And obviously a big week, as we mentioned before, with the naming of the stadium and all of that. So too funny. All right, so let's get back to some Raiders football as we talk about the current state of the team. And the one thing that I had slated to talk about here, guys, and we're gonna make this a little bit more of a hodgepodge of stuff, but the offensive line. You know what? Wait, let's hold that. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about some of the other things that we saw and some of the things I think people are getting a little ahead of their skis on. Arden Key, I like the kid. I've always rooted for him. But Arden Key had one nice series, had a couple nice plays. But I don't know what other people were watching, because I watched Arden Key get manhandled by some third stringers at times. Okay, I'm not saying he hasn't improved in certain areas, but I don't understand, gentlemen, this all of a sudden this excitement. And I joked on Twitter last night that some people had him pegged as a Pro Bowler already. And I was exaggerating, of course, for effect. But, Kelly, I don't get it. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm ready to pass judgment on him yet in this preseason. It's only one game. But I didn't see anything that just jumped out and said, wow, this guy has made the jump.
It's just like everything with the first preseason game, the first time you're seeing football, you're just grasping at anything you can. And the sack was a nice sack. It wasn't great. It wasn't something that, it's not really a highlight reel type thing.
Right.
Because, the offensive lineman got a little off balance. The dip of the shoulder was nice to get in and cut the angle down to make the sack, but it's not like he was exploding off the ball. His first step's still not the greatest. He's still got a ton of work to do.
Yeah.
And that's like you said, it's like those were against backups.
I didn't see him get manhandled, but the one thing that stood out to me is his effort. I did see him. He was, he seemed like he was there. I know he played the whole game, which probably isn't a good sign. That means he needs to get the reps. But all the way to the end of the game, he was still giving, great effort. And, after the game, he was talking about how the game slowed down for him, and he's starting to see things a little differently. And Vontez Burfict kind of told him, what to look for before the play started, so he's kind of got direction. So, I thought it was inspiring. I thought that, it's encouraging that he's making strides. He's definitely not looking like a Pro Bowler, but I didn't think he got manhandled by any means.
Not manhandled, but the only thing I'll take issue with what you said, Chaz, is in the NFL, just like most of us when we get paid professionally to do a job, we don't get paid for effort. We get paid for results.
Well,
right. Well, except maybe this show. No. But we
we get paid
because Kelly. No. In coasters, it's an inside joke, but So I think I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying
we get
there's your payment.
We get swag.
Yeah, I'm already getting messages about new hey, and sorry we had a little sound issue, and Brandon, yes, no, the sound guy is me, Brandon. So if you want me fired, just let me know.
Chaz Osborne, Silver and Black today.
There's our sound guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes when we come back from the break, Brandon, I forget to turn the button on for the video. That's my bad. Sorry about that. But anyway, we are at a situation, though, I think with Arden Key, I want to see him do well. It helps the Raiders do well, but I don't see it yet. The Raiders on defense had better pass rush. They had better coverage. The DBs, as we mentioned before, doing well. Clellan Ferrell did well, as we talked about as well. The offensive line, though, guys, this is the bigger concern. Gabe Jackson out. They say 6 weeks. Let's just say it's going to be 8.
Or more.
Or more. I mean, we don't know. I mean, they say it's not a tear, but at the same time, we don't know that. So we'll see. But this could be a hot mess, Kelly.
Yeah, because if there's, especially depth-wise, the Raiders don't have a ton of depth anywhere except for maybe the wide receiver core.
Yep.
You know, so the offensive line was going to be an issue with the starters. Now you're deep digging into the backups, which wasn't that deep.
Right.
It could get ugly quick. And with his injury, say it's 6 or 8 weeks, that's for him just to get back practicing back on the field.
Yeah, that doesn't mean
it's
playing.
a couple games before he's back into game shape, back into ready to go.
Right.
I mean, you're looking after the bye week at this point.
Yeah.
And by that, with the Raiders' schedule, the season could be gone by then.
Probably
This team could easily start 0-6 or 0-7 with the schedule they have.
Yep.
And if that happens, this thing's done.
Yeah, well, that's when you get all the younger players in there and you get a lot more reps for guys. I thought the offensive line played pretty well last night. Coach Gruden in his press conference after the game was kind of asked about it, and he had mentioned Jordan Devey and Denver Kirkland as kind of maybe, coming in and playing a lot of minutes. So you're right. Right now it looks like a mess, and but last night was encouraging because they held up pretty good. I know it was just preseason, and you're not going against any starters, but at least it wasn't a complete mess last night.
No, it wasn't. But I just think that overall, look, you had an uphill battle brewing with the schedule. Then I think the trade of Kelechi Osemele now is hard. Because you traded him away.
It was hard before because
I know.
You basically just dumped the salary. You got nothing for him on a team that had a ton of salary cap room. I don't understand it at all.
Well, and that's the point, though, Kelly, is not only was it tough then, although I was willing to trust the organization and say, okay, maybe there's something here I don't see, but now with the need that you have and with Incognito being out, if Derek Carr survives out of week 2, you should feel lucky, I believe, because you're not going to have anything there. And the way, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the way Brandon Parker has looked is not encouraging to me. And so now you not only are down 2 guys into week 2 that you were planning on having, but then that one of the other guys in Brandon Parker might not even be on the squad, or if he is, he might be practice squad or reserve and not play. So I just don't know what they're going to do. Is there anything out there they can do? Is there a move they can make?
Free agency for interior offensive linemen's not exciting. Chance Warmack's probably the biggest or best option out there, and I don't really see anybody running for that option. If you find out this is a little worse and he's going to be a little longer, he's a viable NFL player. He's an option you can throw in there. He's not going to get your guy killed. But, there's a reason he's still a street free agent.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jess.
Well, they were talking about, I think Gruden was saying that game in Canada, or maybe it was Rich Gannon during the broadcast, that they're playing on AstroTurf or something up in Canada, and the starters probably won't play. So I think Gruden touched on it that next week the starters are actually going to get some good minutes in Arizona. So maybe we'll get a better look next week who's in there and which direction they're going to go.
Yeah, that's what the preseason's all about. It's going to play out and they'll figure out what they're going to do. I just that offensive line is really just going to be it was a beast going into the season. Now with the Gabe Jackson injury and that left side, what's going on there, especially through 2 games, it's just going to be tough. And I want to apologize, too. We were supposed to have a guest on about the cryotherapy and Antonio Brown's feet. And as Chaz said, I'll give you credit on the joke, he must have gotten cold feet.
Oh,
hey.
My dad jokes.
I know.
You're starting to wear off on me, man.
No, jeez.
He gave us the cold shoulder.
Yes, when I did the pre-interview, he was pretty frigid.
Anyway, his feet are old news. We need to start talking about the helmet.
Okay, well, the feet are one thing, but yes, the helmet is another. And to me, it was interesting that Gruden decided he wouldn't talk about anything all week long with Brown, and then last night with the helmet, I think because of some of the reporting, and there's some reporting out there that is just sensationalized. I'm not criticizing people. I think it's BS. But I get why they do it, and there's a place for it. People like it. So there's been a lot of that, a lot of headlines like Antonio Brown's marriage with the Raiders is already over, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Gruden coming out and defending him on the helmet thing. It's just interesting to me on the helmet thing that here's a guy who's had concussions. But you also have to see the ball. So there's got to be some kind of
happy
medium there at least. But again, as Jesse said earlier in the show, I don't think this is the core of the issue of why he's not on the practice field. I just don't. I don't think we have the full story.
Well, I guess he's a diva, and we kind of knew that. So he likes getting little
When
headline.
you date crazy, you deal with crazy. They knew what they were getting into from day one.
That's right.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll take it. I mean, I think in this case, he is that kind of talent.
Right.
So, we'll see. But we're going to see what Kelly has to say because he's wearing his official Kelly's Corner hat. So when we come back from the break, we're going to go to Kelly's Corner. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio. The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with a radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to the CBS Sports Radio family and Las Vegas's only, and I do mean only, All Raiders show, covering the team, the future Las Vegas Raiders, as it said on the beam that was erected. Ooh, erected. Gosh, it takes you right back to fourth grade. So we are here talking about, I want to give a shout out to my man George on Facebook.
George.
Who has been critical of my sound finger. And it's okay, dude. No, I appreciate the feedback. We love the feedback. We are not thin-skinned. I like it. It lets me know that, hey, dude, wake up and turn the sound up so the people who are listening to you can hear you. So, no, it's all good, dude. We appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening and watching, in this case, on Facebook. But it's that time of the show where everybody turns the channel. No, just kidding. Where we get our good friend, Kelly Kreiner, to opine on something that he's got a view on. And we call it, and we need theme music. We're going to work on that. Kelly's Corner.
He's like,
wait, here it is. Play it. You missed the cue, dude. Music? You're already in Columbia, aren't you? Yeah, you're in Columbia, Missouri. He tells me every time we do the rotation together, he tells me too about like in Columbia, Missouri, all the college bars, like it's like 50 cents for drinks. It's crazy. What was it, Tony? Get on, grab that microphone around. Be careful of be careful of the camera thing. Yeah, never mind. Okay.
That's it. Good job.
Good job, Scott. Okay. All right. So Kelly's Corner. Kelly, take it away.
All right. Well, we have finally one official week of the preseason in the books.
Yes.
And the NFL's already over because after reading the internet last night, the Kansas City Chiefs are going undefeated and winning the Super Bowl because they scored 37 points on the Bengals. Not only that, like you mentioned earlier, Arden Key, apparently a Pro Bowler.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. Oh, my God. Daniel Jones
Hall of Famer.
is the next Hall of Famer. It's like, okay,
he's a franchise quarterback. Absolutely. One drive, it shows you he's a franchise quarterback.
I know we're all excited for football, but
settle down.
Can we do the Aaron Rodgers relax real quick?
RELAX.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, for what I said about Daniel Jones, I get it for me getting just pounded by people coming after me. He had two really good throws. The slant to Tate and the touchdown, excellent throws.
Yep.
The other ones I could have made because he's throwing in zones that are wide open because nobody's showing any defense you're seeing in the season. Nobody's showing any offense you're going to see. Kyler Murray was like 6 for 6 or 6 for 7. I don't think he threw the ball past 5 yards.
Yep.
Every one of those throws you will not see in the regular season. Kingsbury's going to have a completely different offense going. That was just him getting out there, getting the ball out quick, because no one cares about what happens for the next 3 weeks. This doesn't matter.
I think Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones are Hall of Famers. Of course, I'm kidding. But no, I agree with you. This is what I was making the point earlier about Arden Key with Raiders fans. Do you remember this time last year and maybe another game or two? Chris Roarin III was the next coming of Bo Jackson, right? He was going to be the guy. We finally found the guy.
Yep.
Okay, now the Giants fans, those poor bastards, they are now thinking that Daniel Jones is going to take them back to the they're going to the playoffs this year. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff out there with some of these one game, and you're right about the Chiefs. Like, look, Patrick Mahomes is a good quarterback. I don't care if you hate the Chiefs or not. He's going to be a good quarterback for a long time, barring injury. Okay. But don't give them the Super Bowl, guys. Come on. I mean, let's be ridiculous. Also, have you noticed, too, in the last couple of weeks, suddenly everybody's also on the Steelers jock? Oh, they're going to be mad because everybody's giving the Browns attention. Mad doesn't win ball games, folks. Doesn't.
No, the Steelers still winning that division, though.
Oh, I agree with you. I think the Browns are overrated, but I'm just saying.
Cleveland's offensive line is going to be a massive issue for this team, and everybody loves the Baker Mayfield swagger and everything. That's awesome.
Right.
Till things start going south.
I'm actually down with the Ravens in that division.
Oh, yeah, the Ravens.
Because they're mad.
Oh, yeah.
Right? No, I think the Ravens are going to surprise them.
But the Bengals have to win that division because they've got a guy who used to hang out with McVay as their coach.
That's a good angle.
Of course, their offensive line's worse than everybody else. I mean, their offensive line's worse than the Raiders at this point. I mean, lose Jonah Williams for the season with a shoulder injury. Bowling retired. I mean, their right tackle's just abysmal to begin with. He's a turnstile, and so the Bengals got no shot. They're done.
Olé.
They're looking at the draft for next year, the Dalton replacement maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love the overreaction after week 1. And it gets really bad after week 3 when the starters play a half or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you've still got a second half of football where nobody's playing.
Right.
Well, and I think it's hard to know. I mean, I look at the NFL and I look at the fans. And of course, our listener base is our Raiders fans. But Raiders fans, I swear, it's like somebody who's got multiple personalities that's on lithium, and one day you see them and they're like the most joyful, awesome person ever, and then the next day it's like every player on the team might as well be Charles Manson because it goes. And I get it after the years and the misery and all that stuff, and just wanting to get back to where the franchise was.
Yeah.
I get it, but slow the roll. It's like, hey, wait it out. They got another preseason game next week.
Yeah, next week's going to be a big one. I think
Arizona.
We're going to play a lot of starters next week, so we'll get to see a lot. We'll have a lot more information on which way the team's going.
Is week 3 the one in Canada? Or is it
yes.
So
week 3
is the one in Canada.
But they're saying because of the AstroTurf.
So yeah, next
Packers
week will be the Raiders
kind of
showcase game instead of the third week.
Right, and I think for the Packers too. I don't know if that matters, but.
Yeah, and we're going to have a guest on next week, actually, fellas, about Canada, about Winnipeg, and that game actually isn't selling like they thought it would.
No, they're less than 9,000 tickets sold. They got 33,000 seats.
You're charging a super premium for free, like
$150 is what they charge for the Grey Cup tickets.
It's Canada? They get free healthcare. Don't they get free football tickets?
Well, no. I was going to say. Plus, what's the exchange rate now, man? The Canadian dollar's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, it's like 2 Molsons to every dollar.
Oh, nice.
2 for 1 beers. I'm all for that. But no, you're paying a super premium for preseason football. Right. I don't care if I'm a football fan. I'm not paying for preseason. When I had my season tickets for the Colts back when I lived in Indiana, first year I gave them away, but nobody wanted them. Right. Then I figured out if you donate them to charity, you get the full value as a tax write-off. Nice. So I donated them to charity for a charity auction.
Right.
But no one would go to a preseason game, and I already paid for those.
Right.
And I wouldn't go.
Right. Yeah.
There's no way I'm paying a premium to go.
And now you're not going to see starters. They're saying Aaron Rodgers isn't going to play, and obviously Carr.
And that's the thing. You know those guys aren't playing.
No. Well, and that's the crux of the argument with the preseason too. Is you're not playing anybody, and so nobody wants to see the games.
Maybe they should get rid of 2 preseason games and 2 regular season.
Who would
games.
ever think of that?
I'm all for that. By the way.
Yeah, but again, we went down that rabbit hole. Yeah. I get it. And if you're going to have preseason games, why not just have, like you said, 2, and then you're going to see starters in those 2 games. At least the first one, okay, maybe you see a quarter. The second one, you're going to see a half. And at least I get to see some quality ball, and I start to see guys who might actually be on the team and go from there. But yeah, it'll be interesting how they work that out in this next collective bargaining agreement and how it all takes. I think one game will go away. I think both sides will agree to that. And to your point, right, was add the games but increase the bye number?
Yeah,
the international piece.
Add the 2, if you add the 2 preseason games, or get rid of 2 preseason, add 2 regular season, add another bye week. Give every team 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
And I talked to somebody that I don't know how they got they sent me a Twitter thing, and it was trying to go over the math of how difficult and stuff and things like that would be, and I'm like, no, it's not. You add an extra week in the season, give everybody an extra week off. If you can't figure that out, you're probably we're not splitting the atom here. We're adding a week and giving another guys off.
Right.
It's because the bye weeks are never fair anyway because they're always different. Mm-hmm. No one wants the early bye week. Everybody wants the late bye week. You don't get that.
Right.
Some people have it in week 3. Some people have it in week 10.
Right.
This way with 2, at least every team's getting an early one, every team's getting a late one. Yep. You don't need 12 games on a Sunday. It's nice, but you can cut that down.
Sure, and everybody's going to watch anyway. You got all those other games going, so that's a great idea. I like that.
I like it too. There we go. Another one in the books. We're going to step aside for a break. Yes, you will silence during the break. Sorry. But we will smile at you. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Don't go anywhere. We'll close out the show next.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
That's a get.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140, the home stretch. And down the stretch they come. I grew up next to Del Mar, sorry. The horse racing this time of the year, right?
That's right, Chaz? And I'm missing Del Mar.
I miss Del Mar.
I was just down there. I didn't get to make it for a day.
I miss Churchill Downs back home.
Yeah,
Churchill's great.
And for those of you who are members of PETA who are cursing me because I like horse racing, sorry. But anyway, we are back here as we get ready to close out the show. It's been a busy, busy week in Raider Nation. The stadium naming, the topping out, Antonio Brown's feet, his head, in more ways than one, the helmet and his head, perhaps.
Yep.
And then, of course, the game last night, which was fun to watch at times. What about, guys? We didn't see a lot from a lot of the running backs, but we did see DeAndre Washington get in there as well. How do you guys? When we look at this, we will hopefully see Josh Jacobs now coming in. Looks like we'll see him this week against Arizona.
Yep.
But what do you guys think about that running back situation? I think it's going to be much like it was last year with the addition of Jacobs, and that's it. But there seems to be kind of a spot there that someone's going to have to go away, right? You can't have 6 running backs unless somebody's playing special teams. But
Peterman steps up, becomes the featured back.
I was going to say, especially when you've got the running ability at quarterback that we now have.
After the Peterman touchdown, I tweeted out a Seinfeld meme, a GIF. I don't think people.
Jay Peterman.
If you were under 35, I don't think you got
Everybody
it.
knows Seinfeld.
Peterman.
You would be surprised the people that don't.
Really?
If you're probably 30 and under, it just wasn't. Probably wasn't your thing. And the bad thing about it, if you try to get somebody now to watch them, because the comedy still works.
Yeah.
But every single Seinfeld episode could be fixed with the cell phone.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
And now people don't understand what it's like to not have that, so they don't understand the problem of waiting for a payphone in a Chinese restaurant.
Right.
It's funny you mentioned this. I was sitting with some guys at the Cigar Box where Kelly and I go, and Chaz will show up occasionally and drink a coffee or something. But we were down there, and we were talking about movies. They're rebooting John Hughes movies from the 80s, the stuff we grew up with, Chaz, like 16 Candles, Home Alone. Now, And my wife looked at me and she said, how the hell are you going to do? A kid's got a cell phone, you got the internet. Like even if the parent did leave them at home, within 3 minutes you would get a message saying that your kid's at home.
Right.
Well, not only that, but how bad of a parent are you? You realize you don't have your kid, you don't call the cops, and the cops are at the house to get your kid.
Right.
Because maybe you're trying to get rid of them?
Oh.
I don't know.
We got enough kids.
I think we might have discovered one of Kelly's childhood memories.
Kelly was left at home.
No, but that's the thing. It's interesting that you go back and you look at all of these movies and all of this stuff culturally and how technology's changed that. And even we talk about technology, the one thing that I can tell you after one full week in the NFL in the preseason is the new pass interference rule.
Way to bring it back.
Yeah.
Thank you
Nice.
very much. I'll be here all week. That rule is the most asinine thing I have ever seen. And it already has shown after 1 week that you can't do it and it's going to ruin the game. Yet we overreact because the Saints got screwed really 2 years in a row. One was because of their play. One was because of the referee. But you can't overcorrect in society and in sports in the NFL. We want to overcorrect on everything. Guess what? Mistakes happen. I made a lot of mistakes in my life.
No.
And there's people out there who tell you all about them. But you know what? You move on. You move forward. You try to make it better. But Kelly, what they've done with this interference rule, and Chaz, I want you to talk about this too, it makes no sense.
I have no problem with the interference rule. They've been
you don't.
They've been using it in the CFL for years. But here's the thing.
Oh, yeah, the CFL. What a juggernaut.
If it works in the CFL, it can work in the NFL. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that
right. That's why I've always said that the
technology
rouge
may be a little better.
That's why I always said the NFL needs the rouge. And if you don't know what the rouge is, sorry.
Well, but then everybody get them because they basically made it now to where everybody kicks it out of the end zone anyway. So that's you wouldn't have a rouge; it'd be useless.
I love Kelly. Thank God we found.
But the thing is, everybody's throwing flags on stuff now just to see how this is going to work. That's not going to be thrown in regular season,
right?
Because you're not going to waste that like a regular challenge. You're seeing more stuff now. The one I want to see, I can't remember what website it was. They put an article about the obvious pass interference call in the Chiefs game that wasn't called.
Yeah.
And they're bringing up the fact, well, it didn't matter for the game. Are we still going to call it? And that's a big issue. But that's every if the game's all over and it's, they're not calling holding. They're not calling that stuff for the most part unless it's blatantly obvious. They're like, we want to get out of here.
Right.
But
keep the game moving.
Yeah, I've got no problem with the pass interference stuff because on a blatant call like that, it cost the Saints a trip to the Super Bowl.
Right. I've got no problem with it.
That needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
If it's 2nd and 5 in the second quarter of a preseason game, nobody cares about that.
Right.
But you're seeing the coaches throw the flags.
Yeah, but you can't
see how this is
how
working.
It works. Right. They're testing the system. But Chaz, you can't institute a new rule and then only call it selectively.
Well, could the Rams have called one last night? That first Glennon, that 38-yard pass to J.J. Nelson. Could the Rams have said, "Well, J.J. Nelson pushed off. Let's throw the..." And the replay, it looked like J.J. Nelson didn't even catch the ball. So now are they going to be able to look at that and say, "Wait a minute, now he dropped the pass. We can use that." No, we can't use that because it's only looking at the interference.
Because that's why you're making which call you are.
And it just goes and goes. It goes around and around from there.
Well, we'll talk about this in coming weeks because I think it's only going to get worse. A couple reminders. Go to london2019.silverandblacktoday.com. You can find a link to it on our Twitter handle as well as our football sweepstakes cards to benefit the Javonte Woods Foundation. Make sure you check that out. The football cards are selling literally like hotcakes, man. They're moving.
Yeah, those are great.
Those are very cool, and it goes to a good charity. We will be live from the Javonte Woods Golf Tournament, Ickey Woods Golf Tournament here in Las Vegas, September 8th. I think it's the 8th. But we'll be live from the tournament as well. Also, some other live announcements coming up very soon. We're going to be out taking the show on the road for some Raider games at some local establishments. We'll bring that to you as well. Next week, a reminder, we're only on for an hour. We have Dodger baseball. We get preempted very rarely by Dodger baseball. Next week is one of those days, so we'll only be with you for an hour, so we will not have video next week, but we will have content for you, and we'll watch, and I will complain again about the pass interference rule, and Kelly will tell me how much he loves it. So some things in life are automatic.
You'll complain about something. I'll explain why you're wrong. And
We'll leave it at that.
And then Chaz will be in the middle saying, I love you guys.
You guys. Can we all just get along?
Chaz will be saying silver and black today.
All right. Well, we're gonna Tony missed his cue there. I mean, dude,
he checked out an hour ago, man.
He's back in Missouri already. All right. For my co-hosts Kelly Kreiner and Chaz Osborne, I am Scalco Branson. As always, thank you guys. Without you, we don't exist. We're not here. You guys are the best listeners and viewers there are. We appreciate it. Until next week, may the autumn wind always be at your back. We will talk to you here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.